Imagine this. A child sits in a classroom, their mind a kaleidoscope of equations, stories, and questions that crack the world open like an egg. Their teacher scolds them for staring out the window. "Focus," she says, tapping the chalkboard. But the numbers there are dead, static, while the child's thoughts race like rivers carving canyons. Years pass. The classroom becomes an office, the window a screen. The equations now balance budgets, not universes. One night they wake gasping, haunted by a life they never lived. A labyrinth of unmade discoveries, songs unsung, truths buried under the weight of normalcy. Here lies the paradox. Society claims to revere genius, the Einsteins, the Da Vincis, the Marie Curies, yet it systemically grinds their potential into dust. We celebrate outliers only after they've been sanitized by time, their struggles romanticized, their madness made palatable. But what of those who never escape the labyrinth? The ones who crack under the pressure to conform, their brilliance twisted into anxiety, addiction, or despair. Why does a world addicted to progress fear its true catalysts? Why do we demand innovation while punishing those who think too differently? Consider Van Gogh's severed ear, Turing's cyanide, Nietzsche's final decade of silence. These are not anomalies but patterns, a blood-red thread stitching through history. Genius, it seems, is only safe when it is neutered, packaged, or dead. The question is not whether society breaks its visionaries, but how. What invisible machinery transforms curiosity into heresy, imagination into delusion? And here's the sting. Could you, in your silent compliance, be part of the machine? The answer lies in the shadows of our collective psyche. Let's descend. You are born into a world that worships the light but depends on the dark. Carl Jung called it the collective shadow, the unconscious underbelly of society where we bury what we fear to confront. Genius, in its raw form, is the ultimate disruptor. It does not politely knock on the door of tradition. It kicks it down. And so civilization's survival instinct kicks in. Not with flames or chains, but with subtler, deadlier tools. Shame, labels, and the slow suffocation of the soul. Consider Nietzsche's Apollonian and Dionysian duality. Society craves the Apollonian, order, reason, the illusion of control. But genius is Dionysian, chaotic, primal, drunk on truth. When Nietzsche declared, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star," he exposed the fatal flaw in our systems. Schools, workplaces, even families function as Apollonian assembly lines, sanding down jagged edges. A child's obsession with the stars becomes distractibility. A teenager's philosophical angst is rebellion. An adult's refusal to accept superficial answers is arrogance. We pathologize the very traits that could birth new worlds. Viktor Frankl, surviving Auschwitz, wrote that the last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. But what happens when society engineers those circumstances to strip away that choice? Aldous Huxley's Brave New World envisioned a dystopia pacified by pleasure, soma pills to numb discomfort, endless entertainment to drown out depth. We've arrived. Algorithms feed us curated realities, flattening complex thought into memes. Productivity culture equates busyness with worth, leaving no room for the idle reflection genius demands. The modern mind is not shackled, it is anesthetized. Here's the psychological trap. The more gifted the individual, the sharper their sensitivity to this dissonance. Schopenhauer argued that genius sees the universal in the particular, perceiving connections invisible to others. But this hyper-awareness becomes a prison. To the genius, the mundane is excruciating. The small talk at parties, the bureaucratic rituals of work, the consumerist treadmill sold as success. Jean-Paul Sartre called this nausea, the visceral revulsion at life's absurdity. Most learn to swallow it. Those who can't are labeled unstable, their clarity mistaken for madness. Even our language betrays us. Mental health now implies conformity. A mind that races beyond boundaries is disordered. One that questions societal myths is delusional. Yet history's visionaries were delusional by the standards of their time. Galileo's heliocentrism was heresy. Emily Dickinson's reclusive genius was hysteria. We pathologize the present's Galileos while venerating the past's martyrs, blind to the hypocrisy. Philosophically, this is a crisis of meaning. Arthur Schopenhauer saw existence as a pendulum between pain and boredom, with geniuses condemned to feel both more acutely. But the 21st century added a twist. Now, the pain is existential, a chasm between who we are and who we're forced to pretend to be. Social media amplifies this fracture. We perform curated identities, silencing the parts of ourselves too strange, too raw, too real. The genius who cannot abide this fragmentation either implodes or exiles themselves. The machinery grinds on. Education systems prioritize standardized testing over critical thinking. Corporations reward compliance over creativity. Even the arts, once a haven for the unconventional, demand marketable brands rather than raw expression. The message is clear. Fit in or be broken. But why? Because genius threatens hierarchy. It exposes the arbitrary lines we call rules. It whispers that emperors have no clothes, and entire empires are built on collective delusion. The existential theologian Paul Tillich warned that the first duty of love is to listen. Yet society refuses to listen to its prophets. Instead, it pathologizes their screams. Underneath it all pulses a primal fear. Genius reminds us how small we've allowed ourselves to become. It is a mirror reflecting our compromises, our unlived lives. We'd rather shatter the mirror than face what's in it. But this is only the beginning. The true horror lies in how these forces shape not just individuals, but the trajectory of our species, stifling breakthroughs, erasing possibilities, condemning us to a stagnant twilight. Picture a river poisoned at its source. The toxins are invisible, tasteless. You only notice the sickness when fish float belly up downstream. This is the fate of stifled genius. The consequences seep into every crevice of existence. Relationships corroded by unspoken resentment, industries starved of innovation, a culture reduced to regurgitating memes and hashtags. But the deepest damage is neurological. Every time a child learns to mute their curiosity for approval, a neural pathway dies. Every time an adult trades a daring idea for social safety, their brain rewires itself toward mediocrity. Cognitive biases act as society's silent enforcers. The crab mentality, where crabs in a bucket pull down any trying to escape, explains why peers mock the dreamer, the outlier. The Dunning-Kruger effect ensures that the least competent shout the loudest, drowning out nuanced thought. Meanwhile, the bystander effect paralyzes potential allies. Someone else will champion the visionary, not me. These biases form an invisible cage, normalizing the suppression of brilliance as just the way things are. Neurologically, genius thrives in divergent thinking, a web of neural connections firing across distant regions of the brain. But society rewards convergent thinking, linear, predictable, obedient. Schools condition children to memorize answers, not ask questions. Corporate cultures demand team players who color inside the lines. Over time, the brain's plasticity betrays its owner. The prefrontal cortex, seat of creativity, atrophies under disuse, while the amygdala, the fear center, grows dominant. The result? A population terrified of originality, addicted to the dopamine hits of likes and promotions. Cultural conditioning completes the sabotage. From fairy tales to blockbusters, we're fed the myth of the lone genius, the Newton under the apple tree, the Musk in his garage. This narrative erases the truth. Genius requires ecosystems. Da Vinci needed patrons. Curie needed collaborators. Kafka needed Broad to defy his wish to burn his manuscripts. Yet today's hyper-individualist culture isolates visionaries, forcing them to fight systemic battles alone. The message? Your brilliance is your burden. The cost is quantifiable. Studies reveal that 98% of children score as creative geniuses at age 5. By adulthood, that plummets to 2%. Lost in that statistic are cures for diseases, solutions to climate collapse, artworks that could have shattered despair. Consider Ignaz Semmelweis, who discovered hand-washing prevented fatal infections in 1847. His peers called him mad. He died in an asylum. Or Rosalind Franklin, whose X-ray crystallography revealed DNA structure, only to have Watson and Crick claim the glory. Society doesn't just sideline genius, it erases it. On a macro scale, this war on brilliance fuels civilizational stagnation. The 20th century gave us quantum physics, spaceflight, the internet. The 21st, incremental upgrades, faster apps, thinner screens. Peter Thiel's lament, "We wanted flying cars, we got 140 characters," is not a tech failure, but a human one. When institutions prioritize profit over curiosity, risk aversion becomes policy. Patent wars bury breakthroughs. Academic journals gatekeep knowledge. The irony? The very systems built to advance humanity now hold it hostage. Psychologically, the toll is apocalyptic. A 2023 study found that highly gifted individuals are 300% more likely to suffer chronic anxiety. Their brains detect patterns others miss. The fragility of ecosystems, the lies in political speeches, the existential vacuum beneath consumerism. To see clearly in a deluded world is a curse. Kierkegaard called this the dizziness of freedom, the terror of realizing you alone are responsible for meaning. Most retreat into what Sartre termed bad faith, pretending ignorance to escape the burden of truth. But the cruelest twist is this: society needs genius to survive. Climate collapse, AI ethics, pandemics. These demand minds unafraid to dismantle paradigms. Yet we've built a world where such minds are either crushed or corrupted. The Zuckerbergs and Musks are not exceptions but warnings. Even breakout visionaries become cogs in the machine, their idealism commodified into shareholder value. The poison is now cyclical. Children raised on screens develop fragmented attention spans, incapable of the deep focus genius demands. Algorithms push outrage over insight, fragmenting collective consciousness. We've entered a mental Anthropocene, an epoch where the human mind, once a frontier of infinite potential, is being terraformed into a wasteland of distraction. Yet beneath the rubble, a question smolders. What if the madness we attribute to genius isn't a flaw, but a fever? A symptom of a healthy mind fighting infection? The answer will demand more than analysis. It demands rebellion. Rebellion begins not with a roar, but with a whisper. The quiet recognition that you are not the problem. Nietzsche's Übermensch does not transcend society by force, but by radical self-honesty. Viktor Frankl survived the camps by finding meaning in suffering. Your escape begins by finding truth in the lies. The machine wants you to believe the choice is conformity or chaos. But there is a third path, strategic heresy. History's greatest rebels mastered this. Van Gogh painted swirling stars in an asylum, not despite his madness, but through it. Hypatia taught mathematics as Rome crumbled, her lectures a silent war against dogma. Turing cracked Nazi codes while hiding his sexuality, weaponizing his outsider perspective. Their power lay not in defiance alone, but in redefining the rules of the game. You must do the same. Start by embracing what society calls madness as a form of clarity. Schopenhauer wrote that talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. Your obsessions, the ideas that keep you awake, the questions others dismiss as too much, are compass needles. Follow them into the wilderness. David Bowie, ever the chameleon, called this always going further than the limits of your ability. Burn the script of balance. Genius is not a lifestyle. It is a gravitational pull. Next, practice intellectual disobedience. The philosopher Socrates drank hemlock rather than stop questioning Athens' illusions. His true crime? Teaching others to think for themselves. Modern heresies are simpler. Read banned books, reject productivity cults, Prioritize depth over speed. When the world demands you be realistic, ask, whose reality? The term realistic is often code for convenient to those in power. But rebellion requires infrastructure. Build a psychic sanctuary, habits that shield your mind from colonization. Take walks without your phone. Write morning pages no one will read. Study the Japanese concept of mei, the art of negative space. Silence is the incubator of revelation. As Kafka wrote, you do not need to leave your room. Remain sitting at your table and listen. Just listen. The world will offer itself to you to be unmasked. Collectively, we must resurrect ecosystems for genius. The Bauhaus School, Black Mountain College, the Inklings. These were hubs where misfits collided. Find your tribe of holy fools. Protect them. Share work prematurely. Collaborate recklessly. Remember, the Renaissance wasn't built by lone geniuses, but by networks of heretics trading ideas in shadowed courtyards. The most subversive act? Waste time. Society equates idleness with guilt, but breakthroughs bloom in boredom. Darwin's theory of evolution crystallized during his empty years at Downe House. Marie Curie's daily walks were as vital as her lab work. Modern neuroscience confirms that the default mode network, the brain's idle state, is where creativity and self-awareness ignite. Schedule aimlessness. Guard it like a sacred ritual. Finally, weaponize your vulnerability. Society pathologizes sensitivity, but it is your superpower. Frida Kahlo turned chronic pain into surrealist masterpieces. Beethoven composed his Ninth Symphony deaf. Their weaknesses became portals to universes others couldn't access. Sartre argued that hell is other people, but only if you let their gaze define you. Reframe your strangeness as a dialect they don't yet speak. This is not optimism. It is alchemy, transmuting societal poison into fuel. The machine will call you arrogant, reckless, unstable. Let it. Every label thrown at you is a fossil of fear. When you feel the old walls closing in, remember, you are not escaping reality. You are building a new one. The final truth? Genius was never meant to be managed. It is wildfire. Let it burn. The ultimate truth is this: genius and madness are not opposites, but reflections of the same shattered mirror. What society condemns as madness is often the unflinching light of a mind refusing to filter reality through cracked cultural lenses. The true insanity lies in the collective lie, the agreement to call stagnation stability, curiosity deviance, and conformity sanity. You are not broken, you are awake. Consider the pattern. Every visionary was first branded a heretic. Galileo's telescope threatened celestial hierarchies. Tesla's visions of wireless energy were buried by Edison's profit-driven grids. Woolf's stream of consciousness prose was dismissed as hysterical, yet their delusions became the bedrock of progress. The madness was never in their minds, but in the refusal of the world to see. Jung warned that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Here's the secret. Genius is acceptance of your chaos, your obsessions, your refusal to shrink. This is the final rebellion, recognizing that society's rejection is the proof of your potency. A tree's roots must crack concrete to reach water. A star must collapse inward before it explodes into light. Your mind, too, is a cosmic event, too vast for small rooms and smaller ideologies. The existentialist André Gide nailed it. Astronomers are careful not to tidy up the universe. Yet we've let institutions tidy our psyches, pruning wild thoughts like weeds. The paradigm shift? You are not here to fit into the world. The world is here to fit into you. Every societal no is a fossil of fear. Every should is a ghost of dead imaginations. Van Gogh's stars swirl because static skies are a lie. Dickinson's dashes break syntax because some truths can't be caged. Your brilliance, your so-called madness, is the key to realities yet unborn. So let them call you mad. Let them clutch their rulebooks and rituals. While they polish their chains, you are already free. Not in spite of your chaos, but because of it. The phoenix does not apologize for its ashes. Now the question splits the air like lightning. Will you spend your life building a cage or a cosmos?